Hi and welcome to Literary Hype. I am Stephanie, your literary hype woman, and today's author conversation series has me so excited because this is an author that was on the vision board that I made at the beginning of the year when I made that goals video. She was on that board. So I'm very excited to check another author off of that list. And we are talking about Elle Cosimano from the Finlay Donovan series. These books are so fantastic and so much fun. I recommend these all the time at the bookstore because they just cover so many bases and so much that you would want in a book. I love this series so much. The newest one is Finlay Donovan Jumps the Gun, and that is now out and available. So here's my conversation with Elle Cosimano about the Finlay Donovan series. Welcome to Literary Hype. So excited to have you and our very special girl, Finlay Donovan, on the show. I made a vision board at the beginning of the year and you were on it, so this is a dream.
Oh, yay, I'm excited. Thanks for having me.
So for those who don't know about the Finlay books and have been living under a rock for the last couple of years, kind of introduce us to the Finlay Donovan character.
Yeah, so Finlay is a recently divorced, struggling single mother of two very small children who is having a really hard time making ends meet as a failing romantic suspense novelist when she is overheard having a conversation with her literary agent in a crowded Panera Bread restaurant over lunch, and they're discussing the plot of Finlay's well overdue suspense novel manuscript when they're overheard by the woman at the next table who mistakes the conversation, misconstrues what she's hearing, and assumes Finlay is a killer for hire. She then slips Finlay a note offering her an irresistible sum of cash if she'll consider disposing of her problem husband. And so begins the series of Finlay Donovan. And that's where we begin in book one. And of course, we've just a few weeks ago released the third book in the series, which I'm really excited about.
This lovely little green one. I do love the green. Finlay Donovan Jumps the Gun. So a lot happens in those first two books that kind of is spoilers, but it's necessary to discuss when you're talking about book three. Let's talk about, I'll let you introduce where we are in book three. As many spoilers or a few spoilers as you want for this part.
Yeah, so I try to keep these as spoiler free as possible because each book piggybacks off the last, and the reveals in each of those books kind of become the launching point for the mystery in the next one. So I'll try to keep it as spoiler free as possible for those of you who are maybe just now coming into the series. But I had a lot of fun with book three because I put us in a very different setting. We are following Finlay and Vero, her nanny and friend, and now partner in crime, as they are embarking on a week-long trip to a citizens police academy where they are hoping to sleuth out the identity of a contract killer, the elusive contract killer known as Easy Clean, who they strongly suspect is a police officer. And so the setting is a lot of fun because for a good chunk of the book, we were actually with Finlay and Vero at Police Academy, which is run by none other than her romantic interest, Detective Nick Anthony. And so we get to spend quite a bit of time with him in this book, and readers are pretty excited about that.
Initially, when I was reading it, I was like, okay, how did you come up with the idea to have this police academy? And then you go and drop the bomb that this is a real thing that you have done. How much fun was it getting to like put pieces of your real life experiences into this story?
So much fun. And yeah, people are surprised. I think a lot of people don't realize that there are citizens police academies that are offered throughout the country, and police jurisdictions are offering them in different areas where you and your neighbors can sign up to go and take classes and learn more about law enforcement. The particular police academy that I attended was unique and different because it was a writers' police academy. So it was very hands-on, and it was intended with the goal of giving authors and writers who write about crime, whether it's in novels or true crime or, in whatever fashion, to get hands-on experience so that we can describe in more accurate detail some of the things that we often get wrong in writing crime fiction. And it makes it, I think, easier to know when we can exaggerate and bend the truth if we actually know the truth. And so I was able to attend a Writers Police Academy 3 times. All 3 times super exciting. We did a lot of hands-on training, a lot of hands-on workshops. We talked with and got to interview and take courses with police officers and judges and undercover detectives and forensic scientists and EMTs and firefighters, and really get like inside knowledge and kind of touch and experience all of these cool things that most people never get a chance to do. And so I was able with this book to take some of those real experiences that I had at Police Academy and give Finlay and Vero the fun of doing something very, very similar. And of course, we embellish the truth at times, and we have a little bit of fun. It is fiction. But a lot of the courses and things that they did and experienced at Police Academy were things that I actually got to do at Police Academy. So that just made it all the more fun.
How important was that, right, getting to go to one of those writers' academies to your entire research process for a whole series that is crime-based?
I actually started going to Police Academy years ago, even before I started Finlay Donovan, when I was writing YA crime fiction and mysteries. And so I've been able to kind of carry over those experiences and those research opportunities into this new series, which has been a lot of fun. But it also kind of emboldened me to conduct my own hands-on research and kind of branch out in other ways that maybe I would have been too timid or not challenged myself to do before. So, since attending Police Academy, I've gone on ahead and toured my regional forensics laboratory, which is the laboratory that we see in the Finlay Donovan series. And I got to go and spend a day and talk with people and shadow them around. I've taken basic handgun certification classes, which, I did on my own outside of Police Academy, which was a really great experience. I've interviewed folks and exchanged emails with industry professionals and lawyers and, law school professors and people that have helped me bring kind of unique details to the stories. But I think the really amazing thing about the experience, this kind of experience, is that it sort of does embolden you to kind of go out and branch out and do other kinds of research too, which is really, really fun. But I love that that some of that research that I've done is local, and because these stories for me are local, they take place in Virginia, that the hands-on opportunities that I've had outside of Police Academy have been local to my area, and I've been able to incorporate those details as well.
What is the most entertaining question that you've ever had to Google as part of your research?
Oh, wow. It's actually one for book 4, which I'm working on right now, and I don't want to spoil it. So, but I will say that in writing the second book, and for those of you who have read the second book, that there is a deceased character in the book who was sort of carried about for quite a bit of the story. And I had to do a lot of research about what happens to, I'm trying not to spoil anything for anyone who hasn't read this one, but I had to do a lot of research about what happens to bodies that have been maintained at specific temperatures for long periods of time when they're removed from those temperatures, to try to help plot out the rest of the story and kind of keep it as close as I could to the facts. And I've actually recently, since then, had someone from a medical examiner's office reach out to me by email and applaud me and say that I got quite a bit of it right. So I felt good. I felt pretty good about that.
Love to hear it. Love to hear it. I think it's can be annoying for a reader to pick up a book and know that something is factually wrong, and it just like that bugs you.
Right.
So it's always nice when it's correct.
The funny thing is that sometimes fiction is much, much stranger than the truth. And the things that tend to catch readers where they think that it's embellished, or they think that it is traveled far from the truth, are actually the real things. And the things, it's funny, the things that slip past them. So yeah, I have a lot of fun with these stories because we sort of push the edges and the boundaries of the shenanigans at times, and ask readers to suspend a little bit of disbelief. But I find that the research is really kind of what helps keep the reader anchored. There's enough real detail, there's enough realism in the stories, and even with Finlay's character and her day-to-day struggles, that it sort of lets us go off the rails at times and just have a little fun with it.
So book 3 kind of digs more into specifically figuring out who Easy Clean is. How far back did you already figure out who this person was going to be to start planting the seeds for it?
Oh, that's a really good question. I don't always know with 100% certainty at the beginning of a book when I go into it, the whodunit. I usually have a pretty good idea who I think it's going to be, and I'm working toward that goal, but it often will change as I'm writing. There's a process of discovery as I'm writing a mystery, and I love that. And it kind of keeps things interesting. I wasn't 100% sure who Easy Clean was until, I would say, I was about halfway through book 3 before I really knew in my heart and my gut that I knew exactly who this person was and their motive and why they had done it. But there is a process to it for me, and I think I have to have a pretty good idea at the beginning, or at least some vague notion of where the story is going. I'd say 90% of the time that story doesn't end up in the same place I thought it would, but I think that's part of the fun of it too.
That's always fun to see, like, oh, that's not what I thought I was gonna do there. In book 3, we get a different setting. How important was that for you as a creative person to kind of shake it up, to avoid, like, whodunits can become very repetitive and feel stale? How important was a change of scenery for keeping it from getting stale? And what other things are you doing to avoid it getting boring?
Yeah, so this is my first long running series, and so this is all kind of new for me too, and I'm feeling my way through it as my readers are discovering the series. But for me, it was very important to keep it fresh, and I want each book to feel unique. I want the books to continue to be full of surprises. The twists within the books are great, but I also want readers to open it up and feel like we're with familiar characters and a familiar mood and a familiar tone and a familiar voice, but something feels fresh and new and exciting. And so for me, moving into a new location offered the promise of, new and exciting shenanigans. And so I feel really, really good about the way that came out. Without spoiling too much, readers who are kind of deep in the series know that each book ends on its own kind of unique, twisty cliffhanger. And we have a really fun one in book 3 that creates the launch pad for the 4th book, which I'm working on now. And I don't want to tell readers where we're going with that 4th book, but I will say that we're also changing up the scene a little bit for that one too. And I'm really, really excited about that.
What can you say about book 4 at this point?
Only that it will be out, the books are spaced out by a year. So for those of you who ran out and read book 3 really, really fast and have slid into my DMs to ask, book 4 will be out in a year. I do need time to write them, but I'm I'm very excited about. Hopefully it'll be worth the wait, and it'll give you guys plenty of time to reread and freshen up on the series before it comes.
Is there any news on a potential book 5 at this point?
None that I can share just yet, but I think we're probably going to have news on that soon. I'm very optimistic we will have news on that soon.
I'm going to count that as news. Close enough. And one thing I really love about this series is the story's origin in your mind is very close to the story's start in the book itself. You want to tell that story?
Oh yeah. It's a fun one. Yeah, I had not planned on writing a dark comedy about a struggling author who accidentally gets mistaken for a hit woman in a Panera Bread, until the day that sort of happened to me. And not to that extreme, but it was early in 2018. I was having lunch with my critique partners in a very crowded Panera Bread, and we were plotting and brainstorming actually the plot of a novel I was working on, and it had a particularly bloody theme to it, lots of death. It was lots of themes of death, and I knew that someone in the book had to die. I was struggling with who it should be and how it should be handled, and so of course I was batting those ideas around with my critique partners, forgetting that I was in a crowded public space and there were people having lunch all around us, when we were, discussing such things as who needs to die and how should it happen and who's going to clean it up. And it didn't occur to us that this conversation could be misconstrued until the woman at the table beside us got up, and she looked deeply, deeply uncomfortable with the conversation as she left her salad and walked out. And it was later that night that we were, rehashing the story over dinner and laughing about it, when someone posed the question, wouldn't it have been funny if she had assumed you were contract killers? And I'll never forget it. It was like this lightning bolt moment when the story's premise came to me. This, how cool would it be to write a story about an author who is actually mistaken for the character that she's writing about in her story. And I never in a million years would have seen myself writing a series like this until I talked with my critique partners about it last night. I pitched them the idea and I said, I have this wild idea for a story and I need one of you to write it, because I couldn't do it. And they said, oh no, you can. You're going to do it. This is your book, your next book. This is the one. And we spent the better portion of that night brainstorming it. And that was I like to say that's the night that Finlay Donovan was born.
And you were just here in St. Louis,
Yes.
and someone brought you a Panera bag of goodies.
Yes.
Like, how surreal was that for you?
Oh my gosh, hold on. I think I have it. Now, of course, the goodies are now scattered through my house because I've been using them everywhere. But I mean, check this out. Like, how cool is this? So I was in St. Louis at my tour event, which was sponsored by the Novel Neighbor. And someone came into the green room and said, there is a representative from Panera here, and she's brought you gifts. And they brought this bag from Panera. It's full of all these cool Panera goodies. And I have since been in touch with her, and she's fantastic. And I sent her some Finlay goodies, some Finlay swag. So I can't wait for her to get it. And hopefully hear from her again. But it was just the coolest feeling, because so much of the first book is, based on this exciting, fantastic moment in Panera that begins the adventure of Finlay Donovan. And so we refer back to Panera all the time. And when readers are taking their pictures of their book in the Panera with the Panera cups and the Panera food, and posting them on Instagram, it continues to come up as a recurring theme with Finlay Donovan. And so to see someone from Panera in the audience at the St. Louis event, recognizing the books and celebrating the books with us was really, really cool.
I mean, St. Louis is the birthplace of Panera.
It
And
is.
but it goes by a different name here. Did they tell you about that?
Yes, St. Louis Bread Company.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Like anytime I would write a script that said Panera, they're like, you're clearly not from here. It's Bread Co. It's
I know.
Bread Co.
I get corrected by everyone from St. Louis.
um, but your critique partners were such a big part of your story. How important is building a writing community for you?
For me, it's huge. This is a very lonely profession in so many respects. We're alone the vast majority of the time. We're staring at a screen, um, often in our pajamas in a quiet corner somewhere. And um, for me, some of the greatest joy that I derive is the creative interaction with other creatives. There's such a cool spark. There's this really neat energy among writers. And I think because, we live alone with our characters in our head so often and for so long, that when we finally come together, whether it be for a conference or a workshop or a retreat or, an event of some kind, there's this really cool chemistry that happens where, we could talk about the coolest things and none of us have to be arrested. We do talk about some really dark things, but no, we have a great time, and I find it's the most energizing part of my job when I'm feeling kind of like the creative wind has lost my sails, and or I can't see my way through the story. Spending time with other writers for me is huge, and my relationship with my critique partners has been a lifesaver for me over the years. We've been writing parallel to each other, for more than 10 years. And this business has so many ups and downs, like there's an immediate victory followed by an immediate failure, followed by a rejection, followed by, something really exciting. And it's wonderful to have people to share those highs and lows with. It's wonderful to have people to bounce, our wild ideas off of. It's wonderful to have people in your corner that are cheering for you when in an uncertain business. And so for me, it's been a vital part of what I do.
What kind of advice have you received from your critique partners, or like the best advice that you've gotten on writing from, I guess, anybody on your journey?
Oh wow. I think the best advice I get from my critique partners isn't necessarily on the writing, but on being a writer, and remembering to focus on what's important, not to dwell in the failures, but to focus on the next step and the successes. Never to read your own reviews. How to pack for tour. Oh my gosh, like all the little things that you would never think of, but it's when you have a community of other people who are going through all of the same things, the great advice comes from the people who've been there, who've walked that path ahead of you. To stay humble and share information and support each other, and all of those important messages that we continue to share and pass back and forth to each other every day. As far as writing advice, I think the greatest piece of writing advice I ever got came very early on in my career. When I first started writing, I tended to make the same mistake that a lot of new writers do. I grossly overwrote, and I was trying so hard, almost trying too hard with my words, and in doing so was kind of bogging myself down. And the advice that I got was that you don't need a lot of words, you only need the right words. And that's really when I started thinking about my writing differently and learning the process of refining and revision, and kind of seeing that in a very different light.
You've been very open about your privilege in writing and how you got started. And that's been a conversation that a couple others have been bringing up lately with through TikTok, like Victoria Aveyard and Maisie Eddings. Like, because people see authors and think like, oh, you know that thought process of it must be so easy. Can I talk about like the help in the community in a personal level to make writing a book happen?
Yeah, it is so hard. It is so hard, this career. And there are so many people who are so talented who can never make the leap because it's challenging financially. It's, the getting started. You're really your own business at that point. And, just like starting any business, it takes upfront cash, it takes upfront resources, it takes time, it takes energy. There's this transition period between careers that's so hard. And for many people, they just don't have the opportunity, the support, the time, the money to be able to easily make that transition. And I was very fortunate. I had a lot of family support. I had a very supportive spouse. We had a 2-income family at the time that helped create that buffer that we needed. I had childcare help from my mother, who was determined to help me kind of pursue this dream. I don't know that I could have done it without without any of that. And so, I think it's important to recognize that, you know, this kind of career, getting started in a career like this, takes a lot of sacrifice in financial and time and energy and all of these things. And it requires so much help and so much support. And I was very fortunate to benefit from, having a very strong support system. And, I wish that for everybody, but the fact is a lot of people don't have it. And this is not an easy industry. It really isn't. It has a lot of challenges to it.
The Finlay Donovan books have so many elements of different genres. So it's like whenever I have a customer who doesn't know what to buy for someone, I recommend Finlay. Like if they like funny books, if they like witty, if they like the mystery, if they like the romance, it's all there. What is your favorite aspects of these books when you're writing them?
Oh, I love it all, but in hindsight, I love it all. But in the moment, I love whatever it is I'm not doing. So it's like anything else, that we approach as work. If I'm writing a romantic scene, I'd rather be writing an action scene. If I'm writing an action scene, I'd rather be writing the steamy romance scene. If I'm writing the setting and the exposition, I'd rather be doing anything but at the fact of the matter is that I really love it all. And I think that's one of the joys for me in writing this series is I get to do it all. I love the genre bending elements of this book and of all of these books in the series. It lets me play with all of the kinds of writing I love most and the things that I love to read the most. As a reader, it brings all of it together in this amazing like soup of really cool elements. And so, yeah, I don't know that I could pick one that I love most. I love that I get to do it all.
These books are also so relatable. Like, especially the first chapter of book 3 had me cackling. Like, I don't have kids, but I have babysat enough that like that was relatable. How do you go about creating a character that is relatable to so many different people, even if they haven't had the experiences that Finlay is going through?
Yeah. Well, I mean, writing Finlay's voice has always been easy for me. I think because her voice is so similar to my own. My author voice, my internal author is Finlay's author voice. My mom voice is Finlay's mom voice. My children are grown now; they're almost 18 and 21. But I very clearly remember the experience of having precocious toddlers, and that experience stays with you. It becomes, it's visceral. It becomes this part of you. It just clings to your bones. And so when I was writing these scenes with Finlay and her children, those experiences were fresh, and her thoughts and feelings and frustrations and joys, being a parent, came from a very authentic place for me. So those parts were easy. And I like to think that there is something very relatable about Finlay. She's in a lot of ways, she's so many of us, tired and frustrated and stressed out, and trying to figure out, a way through some deep and very real problems, not just the bodies and the murders and the, and the shenanigans that are going on the side, but her very real day-to-day problems, juggling post-divorce after a really horrific betrayal, navigating the her own rediscovery and the reclamation of who she wants to be, learning who she is as a friend, and making a new friend, and navigating the waters of that relationship, dating, for the first time in a long time, all of these things on top of motherhood and on top of, being a single earner and an entrepreneur, her being a writer and kind of handling her own business, all of these things. I think there's so many aspects to her that are relatable.
In your books, you've got some little question guides for the Hit Mom Book Club, which is the best name for a book club. Love it. What's your favorite part of, do you have a hand in making those guides, or what's your favorite part of having that kind of book club exist for your books?
I love the Hit Mom Book Club. And I will say, if viewers did not realize we have a Hit Mom Book Club, if you are looking for book club guides, book club questions, little fun extras that you can take to your book club, there are links to those in all of my bios on all of my social medias through my link tree, or you can find them linked on my website. And Hit Mom Book Club offers a downloadable PDF book club guide for each installment for every book. And in those, we have discussion questions, but be careful, don't read ahead on those because there will be spoilers. Beware. We have the playlists, which were the actual playlist that I was listening to as I was creating each of the books. And we have some fun extras. There's a recipe that's significant to each book that we have recreated and put in the book club guide. So, for instance, the first book, we have the recipe for the lasagna that appears in the book. And in this most recent one, we have Nick's chili and biscuits recipe, which was actually submitted as part of a contest, our chili cook-off here on Instagram, through the publisher, and the winning book club got their recipes published in the Hit Moms Book Club discussion guide. So those are all there, and those are so much fun. I do get quite a bit of input into those. I come up with the extras for those. So whether it's a top 10 list or something similar, the playlists are mine, and the recipes, with the exception of the one for the chili and biscuits, were mine. So yeah, I do get quite a bit of input into those, and they're super fun and very, very fortunate. We have a very creative team at Minotaur that kind of creates the graphics and puts them all together, and I love watching them all roll out.
These books are all over social media. You cannot scroll without seeing one of them a lot of the time. What's it like for you is the experience of seeing something that you created take off in such a way like it has?
I can't even put it into words how much fun it is. And I think these books are uniquely fun, not just the content of the books, but the community around Finlay. We have this fandom that's just fun. And I think, everything from the cover recreations to the scene reenactments to the book faces, to the chili cook-offs, you name it, the character art that comes in. I mean, it's just all fun. And I've never experienced so much joy around my books. Before these, I wrote a lot of kind of dark, angsty thrillers. And so I'd get fan letters, but I'd never get a letter from saying, "Oh, your book brought me so much. I laughed and I had so much a good time and there was so much joy in it." No, they were dark and they were angsty. But these books, I get the most amazing, wonderful letters from readers who, for the most part, are telling me that they didn't realize how badly they needed to laugh, or that it pulled them out of a dark place, or it got them turned on to reading after years of, not having read a book, that this was the gateway back into reading for them. And there's so much joy in it. And the social media response and the excitement around the books is such a part of that, that everyone gets to share the joy together, and the laughter and the fun. They're just fun.
And you've mentioned fans like to slide into your DMs quite a bit. Overall, would you say that people are more hot cop or more hot young lawyer?
I would say that depends on where you are in the series. And so, without saying too much, I'll say that for the most part, the readers are generally really happy with the choices that Finlay has made through the books, the romantic choices that she's made through the books. And I think they're on board with those. And I think that's because in the moment, based on where Finlay is in her life and her experiences, those choices make sense for her. But she's, a strong woman, and she's rediscovering herself, and she's allowed to change her mind. And I think that's a wonderful thing. I think one of the things that was most important to me in creating Finlay's character was giving her choices. And I love that readers get very passionate in their opinions about these choices, but for the most part, they're really supportive of her. And I think that's really special.
Is there anything else you wanted to talk about, or any other projects outside of Finlay that you're working on you want to talk about?
No other projects outside of Finlay right now that I'm working on. I am hard at work on book 4. So everyone who has been sliding into the DMs, it's coming. I promise it is coming. Look for it next year. But I'm really, really hoping that we'll have a title and maybe some cover art in the coming months here. So I think maybe this spring we can start looking for some of those. So keep your eyes on my social media, keep your eyes on my website. I have a fantastic FAQ page on my website for all of the burning questions that come to me daily about the Finlay Donovan series. And so, yeah, we should have more news on book 4 very soon.
Delightful. Love to hear it. Love to hear it. And since this is Literary Hype, the most fun question of the day: what books are you hyped about?
Oh, so many. Okay. Some books that are coming this month that everyone should be keeping their eyes peeled for, because these are so, so good. If you love rompy kind of cozy style mysteries, you definitely want to look for Jessie Q. Sutanto's Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers. This book is so much fun, but mostly it had so much heart. And I loved it. I fell in love with these characters. I fell in love with the story. I thought the mystery was really well done. If you love stories of women and strong female friendships, there's a phenomenal book coming this month called The Mostly True Story of Tanner and Louise by Colleen Oakley. And think of it as Thelma and Louise if one of them was an octogenarian and one of them was a 20-something, and they were on the run from the law together. I mean, this book this is a hoot. This book is so much fun, but it also it gripped me. I fell in love with these characters. I fell in love with their story. I fell in love with Colleen's writing. It's just a phenomenal book. We're going to see it everywhere. It's coming this month. And for those of you who lean toward the suspense side and like your books a little bit darker, but if you are looking for kind of elements of motherhood in your suspense, I'm going to recommend Chandler Baker's Cutting Teeth, which is coming soon. It's coming this year, and you want to keep your eyes peeled for it. It is incredibly incisive. It was very, very dark, so well written, so well crafted. And it was just this raw, honest, incisive look at motherhood and all of its beauty and ugliness. And I was so engrossed. So definitely want to keep your eyes peeled for that one. And also want to shout out The Only Survivors by Megan Miranda, which is coming out this year, and we're starting to see some rave reviews for. So I'm really excited for that. The ARCs just came out, and so some phenomenal books coming this year.
I need to get my hands on the Megan Miranda arc. I need it.
Oh, I got it right here.
Oh yeah.
So pretty.
It's such a good cover. She
So
gets
pretty.
great covers.
Great covers.
I have many of her books behind me. Oh goodness. Well, thank you so much for your time and hanging out. Really appreciate it.
It's been great. Thank you so much for having me. It was good to connect.
Yes. Until book 4.
Yes.
I will be hunting you down again for that.
I hope you do. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks to Elle for hanging out and chatting with me and answering all my questions. There were a lot. But also for inspiring me to try out this Writers Police Academy. Like, I need to find one of these and go, because that sounds like an amazing time. And to see what happened a little bit in the Writers Police Academy for Finlay Donovan. Don't forget to check out Finlay Donovan Jumps the Gun, as well as the other 2 books in the series, and eagerly await book 4. Cannot wait to get my hands on that. If you want to get your hands on any of these books, those links are down below. So go down there, click them, buy them, enjoy them, love them. You can also find links to find Elle on social media, as well as her Hit Mom book club down there. We've got it all for you right down in that box below. And while you're down that side of the video, don't forget to hit the like button, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel if you're not already. It really does help things out, and I love having you along for the ride. Thank you so much for joining and watching this video today. Until next time, I'll see you later.